Hey, folks, on today's Rebel's Edge, is the shutdown showdown actually going to come to an end today as the House votes to pass the latest funding resolution supported by 8 defecting Senate Democrats that were required to get this to happen? We'll cover that. And then party on holdings rocking higher as consumers, particularly in Asia markets, buy up kicks like it's gone out of style. And finally, in Pete's Red Zone Sports, I'm going to break down why Alabama is my favorite to dominate the NCAA championships. We're going to cover all that and more on today's Rebel's Edge.
Back in Cardone Studios, Mark.
Yeah, that's where we are, Miami, Florida.
That ain't Pete. We are delighted to be broadcasting from Cardone Studios, folks. Beautiful studio. Soon you'll be seeing a lot more of it on television.
Yeah. And the best, by the way, we don't give these guys credit. Best video team in the business. Certainly the best in South Florida. No,
we're going to have to pay them more.
Well, Grant's going to have to pay him. I mean, it'll eventually come out of us. It was great to be back here. It's been an amazing week so far, Rebels. John and I just fresh off a flight from the Cayman Islands. We were speaking with Grant, actually.
Grant and Alan Marshall.
Yeah, Alan Marshall from New Pexi. But yeah, let's what do you got for the macro? I mean, obviously, we got to talk about the shutdown showdown.
Yep, and I heard John Fetterman, Senator Fetterman, talking about it. He was one of the 8 Democrats that actually got some sense beaten into them by the basically by the constituents, Mark, because, you know, you can play political games all you want. And I think it's wrong to do so, especially when you're playing with the lives, literally, of 42 million Americans that weren't getting paid. Military, they're still going to get fed. Now, their families, I worry about those because money's not going back home to their families. But of course, the military's still eating. But TSA, the people in the air traffic controllers and all that kind of stuff, and a host of others, 42 million Americans, it's a big number. So we're going to reopen. It's going to happen this evening, Mark, at 7 o'clock, according to Solis, the GOP member of the House. He said the vote will be about 7 o'clock tonight. They've already passed their side. It came back to them from the Senate, so all they have to do is vote, and it's done. It should take all of 15 seconds. And then, Mark, the folks at Polymarket had this, because you can actually bet on that.
You're right.
Is it ending today through the 15th, the 12th, 14th, 15th? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
It's like 95% chance.
Well, we're going to go from a shutdown showdown to a shutdown hoedown, like what I did there.
Yeah, I like
As
that.
traders and investors are expected to continue the bull run, clearing the way, clearing the runway, if you will. The runway's not so clear. FAA still saying, and the airline still saying, that we could expect travel disruption and delays for another few days, but it'll be cleared up by Thanksgiving, folks. So looking forward to getting this mess out of the way and the government back to doing the business of representing you, the American public, and the great rebel nation.
Yeah, that's right. Not just being blue and red, or red, rather, rather representing the constituents. All right. Fantastic futures, Mark. I'm going to say the VIX, even though it's up a little today, it's still holding under 18. So I'm going to say fantastic futures, folks. As you know, that measures the S&P 500 and how much it's going to whip around. If some of my prior predictions are right, we're probably going to see another 400 to 600 points out of at least the Dow, perhaps the NASDAQ. Well, that depends on if SoftBank is active in the market or not. But at mid-sessions, the NASDAQ's down about 0.5%. So I'm going to say volatility VIX is my fantastic future.
Yeah, and look, critically important where, you know, we've got the kind of market gyrations that we've had this week, not just about the government shutdown, but of course, there's been a little bit of a rotation from some of the tech names, a little bit of pressure. NVIDIA under pressure after SoftBank announcing the sale of their entire position, $5 billion worth of NVIDIA stock, is whether or not that was an indication that it was time to take some steam off the top of these very, very expensive AI darlings, whether or not the demand side is is overstated, and we're going to talk about that with AMD's CEO Lisa Lu saying, hold my beer on that one, folks. But the thing I'm looking at in futures, John, also crypto, sort of looking for a little bit of direction. Bitcoin flirting with 100,000, 101 right now. Ethereum 3412. Seems like trying to really find some sustainable bullish tailwind momentum behind the crypto markets. Not really able to do that. But here's what I'm going to say. Now that the government is open again, or will be open again after this vote tonight, we can get the balance of the Clarity Act back on the agenda to get passed. That is the big momentum that everybody's been looking for.
That should lift the crypto.
It's going to lift it. It's going to lift it. I'm going to tell you why it's going to lift it, folks. It's one of the easiest trades of the year, because when you have the completion of regulatory certainty around an asset like that, you're going to be able to hold it in your 401k. You're going to be able to hold it in more and more different structures, different assets. And one of the things that we're going to cover later in the show in the small cap spotlight is one of the emerging technologies.
Let's jump right into it.
You want to do it right now?
Small cap spotlight. We were with Mr. Alan Marshall. He is the CEO and I believe founder of what is now known as UPEXI, which is a DAT, a digital asset treasury for Solana. And it was the first to market, Mark, for a Solana. And it is the only one that is still trading above MNAV.
Yeah.
So, of course, if you're somebody who has a treasury like that, folks, one of the things that we got firsthand from Mr. Marshall in front of that big family office crowd in the Caymans and so forth was that they stake their Solana. And because of that, and because of the blocks that they buy Solana in, they're able to buy those blocks at a discount to the spot price of Solana. And now it's going to be locked for a certain period of time.
Right.
We all understand that. But nonetheless, they're staking in a combination with that discount that they're purchasing it for. That's really why they put up such a great number last night. Versus a loss, they put up a big gain. And by my calculation, if they do 4 quarters of what they did last night, Mark, they'd be bringing in the neighborhood of $35 to $40 million, perhaps more than that, because they keep plowing it back into Solana.
Right.
But again, for a $200 million asset, that sounds like a pretty damn good return.
It is. It's a remarkable return. And, you know, this is something that we're going to be covering a lot of, not only on this show, but on some specials that we have lined up with our friends at Newsmax, with our friends over at Fox Business. Is this proliferation, if you will, of these DATs, these digital asset treasuries in the form of public companies on the NASDAQ primarily? What does it mean? Who are the winners and losers expected to be? We think this is going to be one of the winners. UPXI is the symbol. We are both on the advisory board of this company. We are paid for those advisory services, including to tell you good folks about it. So there's our Reg FD disclosure and disclaimer. But this is a great company that we should all be taking a look at. And I did, by the way, I know producer Jared's going to run a little bit of B-roll for us here in the background. I did have the pleasure of sitting down with Alan Marshall at the floor of the iconic New York Stock Exchange just a week or two ago to break all of this down.
Yep. It's a very interesting stock. It was up as much as 27, 28% last night, still up today. And it's one that, as we said, we have skin in the game.
We do.
We have shares in the stock, and fully disclosed, we are paid by UPEXI. And thank you very much for that, Alan Marshall.
Yeah. John, let's talk about the first stock. So I said, party on, Garth. Party on, Wayne, on Holdings. Absolutely 23%. This thing was up today. We had
unusual activity.
Bang.
Bang.
Tell us about it.
Well, we had unusual activity on this name, folks, which means that we saw call buying when the stock was in the mid-30s mark. And here it is, the call. It runs to the upside. Like Mark said, 23%, carrying it through 40, 42, 43, and so forth. So those kinds of things are why you should subscribe.
Jeez.
So scan that QR code for that unusual activity there, folks. But to put a bow on it with Mark, he already said strong sales in Asia, nearly double.
Amazing.
Nearly double the sales. And you see these shoes everywhere. ON, on running or on holdings, ONON. It is, I think, a fabulous company. Roger Federer has probably made more money in this than he made in his entire tennis career, just by being an insider in this stock.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, we look at, I know producer Jared's going to pull the chart up of on holdings of the UOA we had in those calls that people were coming in buying. I mean, from $1.45 to $8 in 2 days, the value of those options. I mean, that's absolutely incredible.
So a $1,400 investment, folks, if you bought 10 contracts, $1,400. Every option's for 100 shares. It went to 8,000 like that this morning. So you have 6,500 almost profit in that trade, 450%. You want trades like that in 2 days? That was in 2 days. Because look at that chart again, folks. That was November 10th. This is the November 12th. So you want gains like that? You're not getting them anywhere else other than Market Rebellion.
Yeah, there's absolutely no doubt about that. All right, so now let's hop into our next one, AMD. And, to frame this, we get a lot of questions. I get them on the radio show. No matter where we go, people know that we are bullish leaning, perhaps heavily bullish leaning on AI and AI infrastructure, on the data space. And
On
people
the energy,
say everything. And people saying, but these things are so expensive. They're overpriced. There's a bubble forming. And I say no. And I will tell you why, John. I think the demand side for AI, when it comes to chips, data centers, energy, all of it continues to be, I'm going to say it again, continues to be underestimated. And of course, today, AMD, we had unusual in this one too, if I'm not mistaken. CEO Lisa Su coming out and saying, yeah, guess what? It's not just underestimated, it's insatiable.
That's right. 35%, I think, is what she says their annual growth rate's going to be, Mark.
Amazing.
And the unusual activity, folks, as you see it on the screen there, stock was 252, 254, somewhere in that range. They were buying the 250, 250 calls. Well, stock goes through 263 today. That's $11 higher than when we were seeing that unusual activity. And we don't just see it, folks. We tell you about it if you're a subscriber.
Yeah.
Which is why you got to scan the QR code. It's a fabulous company. I think the lady that runs it is one of the smartest ladies in tech. And certainly the performance this year is enviable versus any of her counterparts, male or otherwise.
Yeah, and I got to say, the unusual that we had in this one, John, this is a great example. People ask us all the time, with all of the signals that come out with Market Rebellion or the different unusual option activity services that we have, how do you pick the best ones? Mm-hmm. How do you pick the ones that we choose to trade in our personal accounts and so forth? They came in buying 10,000 of the November 14th.
It's 1 million shares, folks.
It's a lot.
The option equivalent of 1 million shares, 1 million shares times $11, $11 million. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. And if you bought the calls, you had defined your risk on entry, which is one of the things we preach is discipline. And you got a multiple return that's a lot better than if you put $252,000 down to buy 1,000 shares at $252 in order to make $11 to the upside. Yep. You're tying up an awful lot of cash to do that, folks. If you're not a hedge fund, you probably don't want to be doing that.
And even if you are, I mean, the hedge funds are probably some of the biggest.
They're the ones we're following, unless it's Nancy Pelosi or Mitch McConnell. I don't know which one of them is a bigger insider trader, Mark, but Nancy's more famous.
We're going to miss Nancy for that very reason. I'm going to see who's going to rise to the top of the House insider traders, but that's a whole other conversation. We had another, on the other side, of course, we had unusual option activity in CRCL Circle, which is the next one we're going to break down. They came in buying 12,000 of the November 14. In this instance, the puts. This thing down 9% as of 10:30 this morning. What's going on with this?
It traded all the way through 90 earlier today, Mark.
Ouch.
It was $100. So again, a $10 drop. But most of us aren't the kind of traders that want to short 1,000 shares of $100 stock. Yeah. I mean, if God forbid the thing had good earnings or something, it would have gone to the upside, and you're chasing that thing. And you had to have $100,000 plus up at your brokerage firm in order to do it. You were able to buy these puts for relatively little, and bang, another double or triple.
Yeah.
That's the way we like to play. These guys say they're going to be spending a lot more, Mark, on CapEx going forward. And I know what you're going to say, John. How does a stable coin spend so much more on CapEx? What? I agree, but that is one of the issues. The other is the revenue is actually down in this one because there's a lot of competitors in the stable coin space, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't just have to go for Circle. It's a great one, but you've got a host of others, and many of them are already in DATs. And so maybe people weren't using this as much as the street was looking for, and that's why it broke 90 to the downside from being well over 100. But on the plus side, Mark, they were up over 200% from the IPO.
On the IPO, yeah. I want to dig into that one a little more later on and figure out why, because one of the things of these companies, of these DATs, these stablecoin issues, when you talk about their OPEX, and I think it was OPEX, not CapEx, their OPEX increasing. I
think you're right.
Why? What your cost of goods sold is what? Anyway, we'll figure that out and we'll cover it for you. We got one more stock to cover, John, before we go to Pete's Red Zone Sports. And I had to do a double take here. I'm putting the readers on to make sure. We're talking about McGraw-Hill, every kid's most hated company because they made the textbooks that we used to have to carry around back in the day.
But you know how they did it, folks? You know how everybody focused in on McGraw-Hill now from kindergarten all the way through college textbooks and so forth? AI, Mark.
AI. This is not a company I think of when I think of AI, McGraw-Hill.
No, but on the other hand, one of the reasons that Mark and I love Tesla and X.com is that those two companies, both the majority owner of both happens to be the same guy, Elon Musk. And the reason that Elon perhaps is so involved in AI and so forth is because he's got the largest data sets on the planet. I mean, every car that's been driven, whether it's wet roads, dry roads, hills, chicanes, chicanes.
I like a good chicane.
A good chicane.
I really do. You know that. I do.
Wherever that car has been driven for the whole time that Elon Musk and his team have been behind building that car, they have the data.
Yeah.
Nobody has as much data about roads. And then I saw a Zoox car the other day on the road, Mark, just like Waymo or any of these other competitors to full self-driving and so forth. This car was mapping out streets for Zoox. And so it wasn't a situation where you're sitting in the car, folks. It was just mapping them, with the cameras all over it and things like that. Well, Elon doesn't have to do that.
No.
Because he's already been doing it. And as we all know now from the people who had their Teslas scratched or whatever, there's two cameras. There's one on either side of the front fenders. There's cameras in back. Yeah. There's cameras on top. He's already mapped all of it.
Don't vandalize a Tesla phone. I mean, not that any rebel would do that, but it's pretty stupid. But McGraw-Hill using AI now to bring this company that I think its origins date back to the 1600s. I don't know, when they were printing things on papyrus.
I think they used to be known as Gutenberg, and they did the Bible back then.
They did. The first version, which, it's always the first is better than the remake. Best Q2 revenue in over 10 years. It's maybe the first time we're talking about this company in over 10 years.
I think it is.
So, yeah, I mean, listen, it is an indication, obviously, one of the industries, education, an online education of something that part of what we do, Mark Rebellion, disrupting with AI. All right, John, we're running long here.
Let's take a look at the quick video, Mark.
What do you got?
So we've got a video for exactly what you led us off with the cold open. It's going to take the odds of the teams making the CFP, the college football playoffs. So let's take a look. Jared, please run the tape.
Take a look at some of the favorites here in the race to win the national championship. It's no surprise. It's Ohio State by a long and wide margin here, a plus 195. Indiana at a plus 550 price, A&M at 7-1, Alabama 9-1, and there's Notre Dame sitting at 10-1. I love Indiana, but Indiana pulling one out at Penn State. Does that fracture you a little bit? Or it's like, no, tough place to play. Just give them credit for the win. Or does that sort of put a little bit of a damper saying, ooh, I don't know if they can battle Ohio State when they're going to meet?
None of it matters, honey. Nobody's going to remember that you squeaked one out in Happy Valley against Penn State, who you hadn't beaten in Lord knows how long.
Ever. They've never won in
It's
Penn
only going
State.
to matter
Happy Valley.
what comes down to it when it matters the most, which will be eventually Ohio State and in a postseason. So we saw them do this last year. They made it and then didn't work out all that well. They got the snot beat out of them in that last game against Ohio State, and then they got trucked in the postseason. So let's see if things are truly different for Cignetti and Indiana this year.
I think they could be. I'm not going to pick. I mean, I think your pick is Alabama is a good one, Mark.
It is.
I like Indiana, and I think good teams find a way to pull it out even when they're not playing quite as well. And they had that history of never winning there, and it was probably in the back of their minds, we've never won here. We've never won here. But they're a really good team. It just depends. I mean, if they don't have to play Ohio State early in the playoffs, and perhaps they don't have to play Alabama or Texas A&M early, one of those favored teams could lose, and then Indiana would have a great path to the college football championship. We'll see. I think it's very interesting to talk about it, even though it's still months into the future before we have that championship game. But that's what makes college sports so interesting.
Yeah, it is, and that you do show a path there for Indiana, but hopes and dreams are not a strategy. My favorite, even in sports, my favorite is Alabama, undefeated in the division, sharing that distinction only, if I'm not mistaken, with Texas A&M. 8-game winning streak they're coming off of. I think that the Crimson Tide is my favorite. But we're going to now switch to one of my favorite sports that we don't get to talk about that often.
That's right.
Vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom, vroom. And folks, I know a lot of you are big fans of F1. I certainly am. Mark is even a bigger fan. He has F1 in his car. And I don't know if you want to tell people.
No, I don't. But when it works,
it's running on an F1 transmission.
It's a great technology when it works. Good for the racetrack, not good for the road. But yeah, I mean, listen. One of the things that's been absolutely remarkable about the sport of F1, of course, we're here in Miami, which is one of the cities to really adopt it and bring it, like Las Vegas. The valuations of these teams, only 6 teams, if I'm not mistaken, in the entire sport. And some news about our friend that is the owner and co-founder of CrowdStrike.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Mr. Kurtz.
Yep.
Talking about buying into the Mercedes F1 team. Total Wolf, I think, is looking possibly to be the seller of that. And we're talking about a $6 billion with a B valuation on that team would be a record.
Right. And the 2 owners of that team, Toto Wolff, known as the F1 Mercedes-Benz team, they each own 33%. So I guess this guy's coming in as the 3rd owner. So roughly a $2 billion downstroke for that check. George, congratulations. You own an F1 team. And, for a long time, Mark, I was wondering how can these NFL valuations be where they're at? 6 billion, 8 billion, 11 billion for the Cowboys or whatever. The numbers are through the roof, but it's a very exclusive club. And it's now only for billionaires in there. F1, they've only got, like you say, 6 or 7 teams. Cadillac's got a team coming in this next year, right. I think. But, I mean, it's a very tight-knit group.
It is.
And so whether you're McLaren or whether you're Red Bull or any of these teams, they are billion-dollar enterprises, and I bet this number gets into the memory bank because next time somebody lets somebody in, it might be more like a $7, $8, $10 billion for a team.
Yeah, I think we could see a $10 billion valuation on F1 teams in the not too distant future. This is a sport that has not seen the level of popularity in the United States, certainly not in the same way comparatively to in Europe. Doing that city by city tour, F1 streets of Miami, F1 streets of Vegas, wildly popular. I think contributing heavily to the increase in popularity, and notwithstanding the fact that it makes traffic, particularly here in Miami, an absolute nightmare. Second, perhaps only to Art Basel, which is coming up And
in 3 weeks.
It is a absolutely grid, turns all of this beautiful city of Miami into total gridlock, folks. Total gridlock. Well, John, on Thursday of next week, we're going to be hosting our next live webinar series. It's going to be the 10 most common mistakes traders make. I'm going to be hosting that with your brother, Pete Najarian.
Yep.
Producer Jared, pull that graphic up so people can scan the QR code or go to marcrebellion.com/get started. You can sign up completely and totally free. And bringing in Rebel's Edge back tomorrow, I think, again, you and
me. You may or may not be in studio here.
Mhm.
I will not be because I'll be at the Hard Rock for the Pipes Conference. So, but we will be here at 1 o'clock tomorrow, folks. So make sure that you set your alarm or whatever you do to make sure that you tell your dog, look, I'm not feeding you until after the Rebel's Edge. Thanks, folks, for joining us. For Marc LoPresti and John Najarian and AWOL Pete Najarian, have a great day trading.
Clear.
Stay classy,
Stay classy, San Diego.
but also stay classy. Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
Wait, what? What did he say?